Metax is a show that teaches you how to think in the metagame. I am not here to give you the answers, nor am I going to tell you how to win. Metax teaches you how to play in the metagame and how to react around the metagame and what is in the metagame. If you're looking for the answers, try HC Realms, check the forums, they have all kinds of neat toys and tools and teams being brought up, and check the results of a lot of the ROC tournaments or any Worlds tournaments to see how teams played out and what teams were used for. I'm just here to help you think.
So recently in the topic of conversation across the Heroclix world, the idea of dial memorization came up as just apparently a thing that must occur as far as competitive play is concerned. I have to argue that full dial memorization is not necessarily what you need to be doing, though at one point I did mention it as a skill that could, really go a long way. Going into a Heroclix tournament, and I'm of course referring to of the highest level being Nationals, and Open, what else? There's Nationals, Opens, Worlds, Regionals, anything like that. Or Rock Super Qualifier, Rock Majors, or any Rock tournament really, because the idea is competitive play is encouraged. You want to go in with a certain amount of knowledge. But the certain amount of knowledge isn't complete knowledge. If you have every single Heroclix dial in the modern age memorized, you, sir, are something else. you are above all averages. Or you're also young and able to, because I find when I was younger I was able to remember these things. In my older age, once I hit like the high 20s, I just stopped being able to do that. So there are some things you can do and some pieces of knowledge that you can utilize going into this that kind of help you average things out. And what you want to do is you want to average things out and then hit the edge cases. So what I'm referring to, of course, is when you see a figure of a certain amount of points, you should have a certain level of expected clicks on the dial, with, again, the exception of edge cases. So I'm going to get into what an edge case is a little later on for those you may or may not understand what I'm referring to. So let's take the example of a 25-point figure. Most 25-point figures or below 25-point figures have 3 or fewer clicks of damage. So when you're committing to a figure of that size and that point value, you really don't want to overcommit damage to that character. You don't want to send your Kingdom Come Superman with an ultra heavy object to go attack their witch because you just dealt 9 damage to a figure that only needed to take 3. And as well, if they're under 20, expect 2, maybe 3 in some rare cases. But what I'm talking about here is you want it. There's a point per click average that you kind of expect out of some figures. Now, when you get into higher figures like 50 to 75, you're looking at about 5 to 6. So that Superman's 9 damage, though still overkill, could be a safe bet because there is the occasional character at that point value who will have 1 or more of that damage based on stats. Now, again, I'm trying to kind of average it out. You do have to play it by ear to a certain degree based on the stats of a character. But after a while of playing and practicing with figures, you kind of get this idea. But I mentioned earlier the idea of edge cases. And edge cases will break this rule that I'm talking about. When we started with the 25-point and under value, the edge case on that is beyond a shadow of doubt the Fast Forces Lockjaw. But then it comes down to the question of, with that particular figure, how bad does that figure need to die? Because you do have to commit 6 damage to that figure, and 6 damage in a lot of cases, especially in the 300-point metagame, pre-stat increases, you're looking at about two attacks, right? That's 2 attacks of 3 damage to deal 6 damage to the 25-point Lockjaw. And even that, I think he can take 1 more after that. So you have to overcommit to that character, and that's what we refer to as an edge case. In some cases, you'll get a character like the Absorbing Man, comes in at 153 points. This is from Invincible Iron Man. And he has maybe 6 clicks of very unimpressive stats. But the fact that he's incredibly hard to kill creates the edge case for him. You don't have to deal much damage, but it's darn hard to make that damage stick. Now, of course, Nick Fury goes beyond that, but Nick Fury is the answer to all things right now. Nick Fury is the figure embodiment of Pulse Wave. So, now, what you really want to kind of focus on is that 100, once you get into the 100-point values and over 100, things fluctuate up and down, and that's where a lot of people kind of start getting panicky, and that's where they start memorizing. So, if you really feel the need to know dials at a certain range of points, my best suggestion is to familiarize yourself with the familiar. And what I mean by that is, if you expect to see 6 or 7 Kyle Rayners, know Kyle Rayner's dial. You don't need to know every single figure, just know Kyle Rayner. Know that 2 damage going in is going to put him on an insanely high statted click. And know that once you get him off of that click, you're pretty smooth sailing after that. So the idea of memorizing everything is dangerous levels of thinking, but at the same time, there's amounts of knowledge that can go a long way. You don't have to know all the stats on certain characters, but if you know that they have a stop click, know how much damage gets you to that stop click. Not necessarily the stats will be there, and you should have the ability with a decently built team to kind of work into that area, but at the same time, you want to, manage the damage that you're doing, right? So know how to get to the stop click, know what it's going to take to get past the stop click, and you'll definitely have a lot of really useful tools to go a long way in this game. Now, when you go into a major sealed tournament, no key figures, no rough ideas. So for instance, with the WizKids Opens, and we're all expecting World's Finest, know that a lot of the really small point characters are worth their points in Clix. There's not a lot of edge cases as far as that, but there's the high point edge case of the Kingdom Come characters who actually are low point, high quality. So know that you're looking at a 200 point figure, but there's not going to be a bad click on that character, and you have to commit hard every time you attack those characters. That kind of knowledge can go a long way going into the game, going into a major tournament, and it goes not to the level of memorizing, but to the level of just a base knowledge. Now, there's a couple ways you can get this knowledge. One is having the characters, but I don't expect you to have a collection like myself where I just collect every single figure that hits the shelf and go. Use resources like hcrealms.com. Use things like pre-release knowledge to kind of give you an idea. Because one of the first things a lot of people talk about in conversation or review of a figure when it first comes out is how many clicks of life they are. And then they start talking about what comes with that set of clicks of life, right? So a lot of the times we'll look at us and you'll hear the conversation go, well, he's 100 points, but he's only 4 clicks. Well, why is he only 4 clicks? And let's go to that level of conversation. And that's kind of important. So I hope that this kind of helps you push yourself in the right direction of getting out of the idea so much as memorizing the dials, but just knowing how to move around dials and possibly how to move around certain point values. Pay attention to averages and point values. And just kind of work in that direction. Know that below 50, expect 3. In the 50 range, 5 to 6. Expect 100 to kind of stay there, but change based on stats. Expect above 150 above to be really deep, much deeper dials. We're talking 7, 8, 9. It kind of the crawl up in numbers of clicks starts to go down. As far like it starts to steady out and go like one at a time in 50 point increments, but then the quality of character then starts to change in those point values. So I've overtalked myself on this episode. I've stopped it 3 times and then restarted it. So guys, Don't sit there trying to get all the knowledge. That arc of the government is really hard to work around. Just know your averages, know your areas, and make sure you know the edge cases. On that note, guys, as always, we have to leave you with the reminder that practice will make your team better. Married with Clix is brought to you in part by MajesticCCG.com. Check out the new premium site with MajesticCCG.com/Apex-Insiders. Check the link below, trust me. Trying to remember that from me talking? Not gonna help. You'll get awesome articles at $3 a month, with the first month being free, from amazing writers such as Paris Gordon, Easton Brock, Aaron Cantu. I'm even going to be contributing occasionally, and if you're familiar with the Meta Lab, check out some of Mike Payne's articles. So, check it out again, MajesticCCG.com/Apex-Insiders for your look into the minds of some of the greats.